I am able to say no to the wrong thing.
Just because somebody wasn't good to one person doesn't mean they won't be good to you.
If you hold out for it, you can have it.
The only thing you actually know after a first date is how you feel.
So if you're like eating snacks in between the meals all day long, you're not hungry for dinner. Hello, welcome back. This is Not For Everyone, a podcast hosted by one hater and one lover. We're your big sisters on the internet, and we are here to kick off our summer dating series. This is the first episode of the Hot, Not Bothered Summer: How to Date Without Losing Your Sanity. This is the first episode. We're going to have one episode in this series at the end of every month through the summer. And we really wanted to make this series for two main reasons. Number one, we know how hard it is to hold on to your faculties while dating.
Oh,
You get so
faculties was such a good word.
faculties. You
Such a
get
good word.
so many mixed messages, mixed signals. There's self doubt. There's people who are hard to read. There's disappointment and hope. And what are you supposed to hold out for? What are you supposed to be more lax about? So this idea of like holding on to your sanity is really the whole point, like the goal of dating. To me, dating is really like an exercise in getting to know yourself, getting to notice how dynamics make you feel, how people make you feel, what you really like, what you want to like but don't actually like, what you will tolerate,
True.
what you think you could like but then or think you wouldn't like in a million years, but then it's really an exercise in getting to know yourself. So like getting more in touch with yourself and your sanity, I think should be the core part of it. It's like one of the best ways to learn and grow. So if you have a loved one who is struggling in dating and you're struggling to know how to support them, how to help them hold on to their sanity, we made this episode so you can send it to them as a gift. Just tell them what we're doing today.
Yeah, so each episode of the series is going to have a little bit of a different theme. I'm really excited about all of them, and this felt like a good place to start because we get so many DMs all the time about situations you are in where you're not sure if you should proceed with somebody or if you're settling, if you're holding to your standards, or if you should keep looking. Like, is the behavior that they're demonstrating weird? Or is it something that I just need to get used to and accept? And it can be so confusing when you're dating and like you just want to find your person, but you don't know if you found them yet or if you should keep going because they're kind of doing some sketchy stuff, and you don't know if it's like your distrust
Yeah.
that's making you think it's sketchy or if it's really sketchy. And those can be the hardest situations. I feel like those are the situations I find myself advising friends on all the time. They rarely take my advice. So this is where I get to scream about it and they can listen or not. You know, we have opinions. We have opinions.
Yeah, people don't take advice from people they know. They take advice from strangers. I've talked about this
Yeah.
before. This is a fact. You're more likely to listen to advice from strangers. So here we are. We're here to do it. I
Including
definitely
myself.
remember, including myself, I
Yeah,
won't take
I
my own
get it.
advice. I definitely remember the feeling while dating of all at once feeling like, okay, I know I'm actually being like too generous and too relaxed, and I'm not having enough boundaries and I'm not having enough standards. And also constantly doubting myself and wondering if I was asking for too much. Like, how could it be both at
Yeah.
once? Like, I was right to trust my gut all along, but it really does take a long time. And I feel like there is such a period of conflicting feelings and conflicting judgments about, is this asking too much? Like, should I actually be asking more? Like, how can I be unsure about both of those questions?
Yeah, and how can I evaluate somebody in a fair way? Like for me,
Yeah.
something that was really hard was especially on dating apps, looking at a profile and trying to sum up and judge like is this a person worthy of going on a date or not based on very little information, and maybe some of the high level information on the app is stuff that I've been told to avoid, like they like pineapple on pizza, anything from that all the way to maybe they have a job that I'm not really sure like what that is or how I feel about it or anything in between. And it's really hard to know like do I give them a chance anyway because this is just one screen about a person versus actually getting to know them? Or am I settling too quickly already just based on like a dating app profile? This should be an easy swipe left or swipe right, and I'm spending all my energy analyzing every single word on it to
We
determine
haven't even
like
spoken
if
yet,
it's
and
a
I'm
match.
tired. I'm
Right.
tired, and I haven't even talked to them yet.
Right. And
That's
I
the
think that's
feeling we
one of
want
the
to help you avoid.
biggest questions we get is like, how much of a chance do I give somebody if on paper maybe it's like not what I usually go for, or not what I think I need or think I want or am familiar with from the past? It's really hard. It's really hard to sort through like your criteria, I guess, and how much of it is fair and you should stick to, and how much of it is like limiting you.
Yeah. I think we should start with the first what to do. And the one disclaimer I'll give for everything is like, these are opinions, they'll be personal opinions.
Yeah,
We can't know everything you've been through or all of your context, but we hope if you're listening, something resonates. And really, the biggest takeaway is getting in touch with yourself and getting to trust yourself. So if something doesn't resonate with you, ignore it. Trust yourself.
true.
That's the thing.
True.
You want to start us off, Jay?
Yeah. Okay, I'll read this first one. It's a pretty quick one, but we've gotten lots of messages like this. So, a question for the dating series: how do you date and give men the benefit of the doubt when it feels like every man is just a boy and no one is going to step up and be a man taking care of a woman in a mutual partnership, asking for a jaded friend?
Hmm.
Oof, girl. She jaded. She Jade. I'm going to call her Jade.
This is Jade.
This is Jade. Um, Do you want to start? I took notes. I have like I'm trying to find my notes, but I took notes and I have thoughts. I just need to find
Yeah.
them.
Okay. You
Yeah.
find your notes. I'll say that a couple things. Number one, you have to
Yes.
remember, like, I think something that really gets everybody down about dating is how many misfires there are.
Mm,
There's so many misfires, right? You have to go on like I felt like I had to go on at least 10 dates to have one date that was even like mildly acceptable.
decent,
And
considerable.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like not a love connection, just like decent. And that feels really discouraging and it makes you feel like either you're doing it wrong or there's no hope for anyone and all the men or all the women are wrong. And then I eventually like I had to step back and realize how hard and rare it is to find connection, even in friendships, even platonically, even for me with other women. If I, cross paths with 1,000 people on the street, I probably
Mm-hmm.
only want to talk to three of them for more than a minute. Like you just don't connect with everybody all the time, and that also includes whether men out there will be able to treat you respectfully. Um, so remembering that, like the fact that the ratio, the frequency of a positive date isn't as high as the frequency of a shitty date, that like that's kind of normal. That's just how connection works. Deep connection isn't an everyday thing for friends or for a romance. And then I also would spend a lot of time like really visualizing relationships, and for this listener specifically, men who I really respected, specific people I knew who I was like, oh wow, she has an amazing husband who, as far as I can tell, seems to treat her really well and be really supportive and respectful and like genuinely listen. They really seem like a team. I think it is so important to really just like solidify those couples in your head, to prove yourself that they do exist and it is worth holding out for. So when people would tell me, I'd go on a date with someone who was like maybe okay on paper, but I didn't actually like the way they made me feel. I didn't actually like the way they treated me. And those things were things that like my mom and my sisters couldn't see because they weren't on the date. They could just see his resume basically. And they'd be like, Caroline, he's great. How can you not la la
Mm-hmm.
la? And it would get in my head like, am I asking too much? And then I would sit and remember these couples that I really respect, and it's not a lot, but you just need a couple of them. And I would be like, yeah, that great husband and father of two and husband to his wife, that guy I know who's so great, he wouldn't do this. So I really don't need to put up with it. I think just like holding on to a few visualizations of the people, real people, that you admire, if you hold out for it, you can have it. But the one way you'll certainly never have it is if you decide to quit call it quits early and just settle for something less than because you'd rather not be alone. That's a great way to guarantee you'll never get that good kind of relationship. But they are out there and it is a hunt. I think it's a hunt.
Yeah.
Yes.
The hunt point is like totally my point. I found my notes. Hunt, the word hunt is in my notes because it is, you have to remember, okay, this is something I used to remind myself of all the time, especially dating on the apps. How many people are there in this city? I live in Chicago. Almost 3 million people live here. Okay, obviously cut that down to like who's single, who's a straight man, whatever. But you have to remember that the people that you're swiping by, and therefore the people that you end up going on dates with, and even if you're not on the apps, the people that you might encounter in a bar or in a coffee shop or whatever, these are all of the people that live in the city that you live in. It's so many people. And so I think your point about like, if I walk by 1,000 people, I'm probably only going to connect with three of them, whether it's for friendship or for romantic relationship or for whatever. It is the most important point, I think, when dating in this age where we have access to everyone. Remember that literally you have access to everyone. It's literally everyone, all different backgrounds, all different, baggage that they bring, all different things that they could be looking for, all different ways that they like to date and experience things and things that they like to do and whatever your requirements are, like the bag is you're picking out random people from a huge bag of
Bag of
random
trash.
people.
Just a bag of
So,
trash.
yeah, it's really like you
You
have
got to
to do
dig
a
through the
lot of
trash.
sifting.
I
I
think
don't
it's
think
like, yeah, it makes
no,
me
go
think
ahead.
of thrift. It makes me think of thrifting.
Yeah,
It's kind of
it
like,
is.
well, why should I go thrifting when almost everything is just like used trash? It is, but you're not looking to come home with 100 pieces. You just need one good one.
Yep. And it
You just
gets
need one.
tiring. And that's why I think anytime that I noticed myself looking at people on the dating apps and like judging a profile too quickly or being really negative or having the tendency to like be a little overly sassy in my message to them because whatever they said wasn't impressive enough, that was my cue to myself to take a break. Like if you're feeling
Correct.
jaded and like you can't snap out of it, I think that's energy is going to come with you when you
Yeah.
interact with people and
Yeah.
it's not going to help you. So I would say if you're really in that space, take a break. But I also understand that there's a lot of women right now who feel this general like distrust of men. And it's not even like a moment in time when they feel jaded. It's just this larger worldview that they've developed because of experiences they've had. And to those women, I say, like, it's a numbers game. And I think you also have to remember, like I was kind of thinking about this when you were talking about identifying men in your life who you respect and admire the relationship they're in and whatever. I still think an important note is that just because they're treating their wife, who's your friend, who you now see their really great relationship unfold before your eyes, just because that guy is treating that woman great doesn't mean he's always treated women great. And so I think there's an element, it doesn't mean he's a terrible person, but there's this gray area where, like, you know, I've ghosted people. Ryan's probably ghosted people. Like, that doesn't mean that we're bad people to date. It just means that, like, there's matches that we've had and dates that we've been on where that wasn't the person for us. And maybe we chose like the lesser preferred behavior there. I guess my point is like, just because somebody wasn't good to one person doesn't mean they won't be good to you. And I think that almost adds to the numbers game of it all and like the how hard it is to
Yeah.
find your match because somebody could be great to one person and less than ideal to someone else. And that
You
doesn't
bring
mean they're
different things out of
bad.
each other.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's just really keeping in mind like this bigger picture and taking it less personally. Like it's like not about you. It's all these
Yeah.
people that you're sifting through.
Um, Something that I would think about sometimes that really helped motivate me through dating and helped me build like a positive relationship with dating, a positive relationship with myself, and really build on my sense of trusting myself is when I was going on dates with different people and dates that weren't working out. Either they didn't work out within a few messages or they didn't work out within a few dates, whatever the reason. those were still like, if I could, me choosing, oh, that behavior isn't enough for me, or like I won't tolerate that, or this actually isn't what I'm looking for. I'm not going to subject myself to this kind of treatment, blah, blah, blah. Those were all moments of success. That's successful dating. And that mindset helped me a bit to be like, I am able to say no to the wrong thing. And that's really all it takes. If you're holding out for that great thing one day, the thing you have to be really good at first is saying no to a lot of wrong things, because that's what you're going to encounter first. And so it helped me like gain a sense of trust with myself and being like, I'm actually not going to get caught in a demeaning or diminishing or less than relationship, because here I am getting in my reps, evaluating people openly and fairly, but also looking out for myself and like building confidence in that, that there will be some reps you do before you find the person. And that really is the prerequisite. The prerequisite to finding the right person is getting really good at saying no to the wrong people. And I think it's also important to, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether it's your personal history or the history of the world or whatever that's upsetting you, when you go on a date, I can't be going on a date and holding this person responsible for all men in all of
Yeah.
history. It's not
Yeah.
fair. It's not fair. Sorry. I can still have those feelings and I don't have to dismiss those feelings, but you're going on a date with an individual. And you know, everything the listener said about feeling jaded about these less than men, yeah, I agree. It's most of them. And um, it's not something that would be fair to say to like my father, who's a great man, or these other, handful of people that you really, really admire that are a great man. And you can, like, both can be true that they are a great
Hmm.
man that is different from the whole. And also, there is like a social theme that has been really upsetting to you. But I do think you have to be really careful and like, when you go on a date, you're not going on a date with all of mankind. You are going on a date with one person. And I've seen men do the same thing. They've been heartbroken by too many
Yeah.
women. They've dated too many players. They've been tooled around by blah, blah, blah. And then you see them put this on their dating profile and they'll put these prompts where they show how jaded they are. They're like, I'm looking for a woman who doesn't actually only care about the size of a man's wallet. Yeah, I believe you. I believe that dated. It's possible to date a bunch of women who just cared about your wallet. That sucks for you, dude. But don't bring that energy onto a date. It's not going to help you. Who's going to go on a date with that guy? You have to be encountering the individual. And that doesn't mean to disqualify all your other feelings, but just like have a good separation between them.
Hmm. I think that was very well said. Like, no notes. I think we all carry our own past experiences, our own perspective on the world, our own assumptions about people into every situation. But as much as, like, at the end of the day, you're still a woman who's attracted to men who wants to find your life partner. And I don't know how you're going to make that possible if every single time you meet a man, you're assuming the weight of all mankind on his shoulders. So I think it's like it just has to be true what Caroline's suggesting of like showing up to each encounter as this is a new individual and I'm just open to seeing what it is. It just has to be true. If you don't do that, you will not be giving anyone a chance and you will not get the thing you want. So it is very much about like compartmentalizing and just putting that on the shelf and saying, okay, I feel that way. And also, I'm a woman who's attracted to men and I have to go out and do this. And the only way to make that possible is to give the person a chance and not bring all this other baggage into the situation. I mean, we're all doing it all the time, but the larger what men have done in the world is like big baggage to bring.
I think it's this amazing personal growth challenge that dating brings out, where you are trying to all at once balance what you know and what you've experienced, and also not letting it color every single thing. You're not trying to
Yeah.
ignore it, but you're also trying to stay open. And it is like a really great personal growth challenge for all of us to do, whether you're single, married, just got born. I don't know, but it's particularly important in dating. And it's really hard. It's part of that thing of like advocating for yourself, but also staying open to being surprised. Similarly, some other baggage you might have might not be about men, but it might be just specifically people who've tried to control you or abuse you. And no one would ever say, forget that that happened to you. Get over it. Not everyone's like that. No, it's a part of you. It's something you know and it's shaped you. And also, if you see and are looking for that in every person you meet, you will self
Hmm.
sabotage. So, whether it's like personal history you're bringing in or the greater history of planet Earth, you have to hold it a very certain way. And it is hard, but you can do it.
I think the thing that helps me with that and has helped me in dating, my therapist used to tell me, just like, okay, we're noting that. You can observe a person
Mm-hmm.
over a longitudinal study, like we're scientists. Observe a person over a long period of time. A long period means a few dates. It doesn't, I don't mean date them forever if they suck for
Several
you.
minutes.
If they're not a fit, they're not a fit. But like if you're not sure and you're noticing these things and you're like, how much of this is me projecting my assumption of men or my assumption from my ex or whatever, and how much of this is that this person isn't right for me, then if there's enough good there, if there's enough curiosity there, you can hang out with them again and continue to note it. You're observing. That's what dating is. It's observing and seeing if it becomes a pattern. And if it becomes a pattern and you're not okay with it, it becomes a lot clearer after you've seen it a few times than on a first date
Um,
making a judgment call. So I think it's
mhm.
about just like noting, like okay, and observing yourself too through the process. Like you're observing the person you're dating and you're observing your tendencies. And over time, it will become clearer, whether that's a problem with them, whether it's a problem with you, whether it's not a problem at all. Note the patterns and just observe and let it take a little time. You don't have to decide on date one.
Yeah, I love that. Something my sister used to say to me when I was like, this was actually even about Justin, like the person I love and am gonna marry. Early on, there's just so much to sort through. And I had a lot of fucking PTSD from an abusive relationship. And it made it really, really difficult to date. And it made it really difficult to trust people. Um, and and I would be like, well, what if it's this? What if it's really that? What if it's a conspiracy? What if he's really doing this and he's a mastermind manipulator? And Elizabeth was like, well, if he's really that, like, I'm pretty sure it's just going to reveal in time. Like, if you're worried about this
Yeah.
thing that you're saying is a persistent issue, like Jess was just describing, then, like, you'll have a bunch more instances of it. And that kind of gave me a lot of peace. I even think about that in being in a relationship now when I have an urgent feeling that, like, oh, I got to talk
Mm-hmm.
to them about this annoying thing they always do. Well, if they always do it, there's going to be another opportunity to talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. It's going to do it again. Or, best case scenario, he never does it again. And then we don't have to talk about it. But, like, either way, I win. Either way, either it's done or we're going to talk about it. It'll happen again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally agree.
It's no rush.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you want to read the next one?
Yeah, little boo. All right. Another what to do submitted by a dear listener. They say, a little background. I was in a 9.5 year long relationship that started when I was 16. After that ended, I was lost and had no idea who I was. He was a very abusive partner. In the following years, I've been in a series of relationships that all started off on a dating app, and all the relationships sucked. They would lie, cheat, manipulate, etc. But after a relationship ended, I would go back to the apps because it felt like the only option. I've realized it is hard to meet someone in a vacuum and not really know anything about them and build a relationship with them, especially when they are really good at lying. So, after all those stinky relationships, I've taken a step back from dating to focus on myself and have been calling it my sexy celibate summer. I am 32 and now feel like I'm finally getting to know myself, which has been healing. But eventually I want to date again because I would like to get married and have kids, etc. My question is, I'm not thrilled with the idea of using apps to meet a life partner and have had very little experience dating overall. How do I use apps in a focused, non doom scrolly way to really hone in on people that I would like to meet and not just romanticize their potential?
Mm-hmm. 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 I have so many thoughts just on the first sentence of that question of like, I'm not thrilled about using the dating apps in general. On one hand, I have a lot of friends who are single and on the apps right now, and I will check my privilege and acknowledge that it sounds like the apps have gotten even worse than they were when I was on them 3, 4 years ago. Like they were already hard, and now that everybody has a little bit more ability to be out in the world, and, when I was really focused on the apps, it was like COVID, post COVID times when like we needed them a little bit more. I feel like that's shifting and there's like, it definitely seems it's always been hard there and it seems like it's getting harder. So I want to acknowledge that I haven't been on the apps in a few years. That being said, I know so many couples, including both Caroline and I. We did a whole episode with our partners about how we met them on the apps, who have met long term people to be in relationships with through the apps. And I feel like there's such a weird stigma that some people still hold on to. And I'm not sure why, because it's so normal now to meet on dating apps. But there's this stigma that sticks around that some people just don't like the idea of it. And I think this person specifically mentioned earlier in her note that she's had multiple relationships, all starting from the apps, and they all ended up sucking. And to that, I'm like, that's just relationships. Like the way that you met somebody doesn't determine whether that relationship is gonna suck or not. It just, those happen to end up sucking. And we can help talk about like kind of what we would look for more or what we would look for less or how to date intentionally on the apps. But I just wanted to start by saying that I don't think you can blame those relationships sucking on the fact that you met them on the apps. And
Wow,
I
so
don't think
true.
it's a reason
So
to
true.
stop looking on the apps. I
Yeah,
think
because
be open in
spoiler,
person, but be open on the apps too. It's just another
yeah.
way to meet somebody you maybe otherwise wouldn't have met. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say because spoiler, all the people in the apps also exist in real life in person.
Yes.
It's all the same people,
They're
y'all.
people,
It's the same people.
right? It's
It's the
so
same people,
funny.
and people will be people. I do think there can be a difference in how people treat each other early in dating on the apps because
Hmm.
of what the listener mentioned of being in a vacuum. It is harder to see other people as a whole person. It is harder to see them in context or to believe that they even fucking exist outside of the screen.
Yeah.
And when it's hard to see someone as a whole person, it is easier to treat them badly. So I do think the early dates, like early on getting to know each other, there is more inconsiderate treatment of people. I do think that
Yeah.
happens more as opposed to when, you're going on a date because you guys were on the same soccer team or you have a mutual friend from work, you're a little less likely to screw that person over and be a dick.
Yep.
That being said, if you're meeting people on the apps, great. And the thing that I found I really needed to do, especially coming out of relationships where I had a negative experience, which again is like most people. It's like it it
Yeah.
it sucks until it doesn't.
Yeah.
If I don't know anyone who just had a string of like amazing relationships, but they're like, oh, it was really really great and magical, but I just thought better move on. No, like
Yeah.
you move on because something goes wrong usually.
Exactly.
And but especially if you felt like you've been very damaged and hurt and affected by those relationships, there's so much healing that needs to happen. And one thing that I really learned, especially if you've been in an abusive situation, is how it destroyed my trust in myself, how it destroyed my ability to vet a situation and vet a person's safety. It destroyed my ability to even trust that I was being myself or sticking to my values. Like I knew I was very well inclined to like be indoctrinated into a two-person cult all over again. That's what an abusive relationship is to me. It's a two-person cult. It starts on good terms and it starts with like clear benefits, and then suddenly these rules start coming down, and the rules are put upon you slowly one at a time. It doesn't seem like that big a deal. You can kind of empathize with it, and then eventually the rules get crazier and crazier, but you're so deep in and you can empathize so much and you've been through so much together that these rules, these very strange warped rules of how to live and how to treat each other, take over your life, and then you're more and more isolated, so they become the only thing you know and the only thing you remember, and it makes sense to you. It's like a cult. It to me it's a two-person cult. And then getting out of that, you have to, like, what's the word, be like reindoctrinated into
Mm-hmm.
society. And there's a big transition, and I think the biggest part for me was learning to trust myself again, which is why it felt really important after any single date or even like a text conversation or whatever, a phone call with someone I was considering, I would either journal or just leave a voice memo to myself about how the person made me feel. I'm not really, it wasn't like, uh, I don't think he's that funny, or like, I don't know if he's this enough. It's not really about him or her, whoever you're dating. It's about how you felt in their presence.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get really, really, if you can like really sharply attune yourself to noticing how people make you feel, then you can totally still encounter abusive or dangerous people. I still encounter them in dating, but you can cut it off very quickly. It's not about never encountering these people. It's about being able to identify how they make you feel when they make you feel unsafe, and ending it, and then you move on to the next thing. And it is possible to do, but I think the biggest thing is just like practicing noting how did they make me feel, not going and talking to my friends about it and then hearing how they think I should feel about it.
Yeah.
That's We're already too far removed. Just you alone before you've talked to anyone about it. How did it make you feel?
Yeah, and I actually think that's exactly the antidote to romanticizing their potential too early, because that was one of her
Yeah.
questions. How do I make sure I don't just romanticize their potential? And I think focusing more on yourself and how you feel over, oh, they were charming and they were funny and they have this type of job and they have this type of life and they seem like they're like this. Less focus on them, more focus on you. Do they like me? That's another one. Like, what did they think of me? It's more, well, do you like them? And how did you feel around them? I think that's a big way to not romanticize their potential, because you're checking in with yourself as opposed to being so concerned about what were they doing? How did they show up? Because when you're focused on like, oh, it seemed like he has a great relationship with his mom because he like said he had a mom on the first date, then you're already creating a narrative about this
Yeah, in the
person
future, if you
and you know nothing
reflect,
about them. You know nothing about them.
yeah.
Wait, the only thing you actually know after a first date is how you feel. You know some
Hmm.
bullets about a person and you know how you feel. And bullets about a person are nothing, but how you feel is everything. So
Yeah.
totally, I agree.
That's the thing. I remember I have all my voice memos, and I would do voice memos because it's just easier for me to talk quickly and not overthink it rather than like journaling, but you do whatever you like. And I have the voice memos from my dates with Justin. Justin has like sat and listened to them with me, and it was actually really like kind of a sweet thing to do. But after our first date, I had feelings of really liking him and being very excited, but I was also able to notice, okay, but I don't know him. So those are just like, that's attraction, that's butterflies, that's infatuation. It's actually not because I really know anything about him, though. I'm
Yeah.
interested, I'm intrigued, I'm attracted, but me feeling excited by this person I spent an hour and a half with is not a reflection of them. That's a reflection of my
Yeah.
infatuation. And then there were some things about him that he made a really good impression. I thought he made me feel really listened to. He felt like he was really taking an interest. Those things felt really like intentional and caring. And then I also had moments where I reflected. I was like, I felt really stressed. I felt really stressed at that date. And I didn't know what that meant yet. I didn't know. And I just noted I felt really stressed on the date. And even in the voice memo, I'm like, but that could be because this is someone who's going to stress me out. I don't know yet. Or it could be that, like, I just don't really like talking to new people and I find it really exhausting and stressful. And so you don't have to know exactly why yet. You're, like Jess said,
Mm-hmm.
you're just taking the notes. But it is important to take that first note that, like, I felt stressed on this date. it felt stressful in their presence, so that later, when every single date for weeks or months you feel stressed around them or you're walking on eggshells or whatever, you can go back to that first date and be like, they have always made me feel this way. And I knew it.
Yeah.
So it identifies it, it solidifies like what you need to know. It's a sanity check, and it teaches you, it gives you that feedback that like you are able to sense these things. Or as it was in my situation with Justin, I was just really nervous to go on dates, and that stress really wasn't about him, and it didn't show up much anymore. But either way, it's like it's something that was true in that moment.
Yeah, that just made me think of something we've talked about, which I firmly believe in, which is that like people show you who they are very quickly, very early. Like if you're in touch with how you feel when you're around somebody, then you can very quickly pick up on like, huh, that's something I'm not sure about. And then a couple times more, and the pattern repeats. And you can very quickly then say, like, oh, yeah, I was right. They keep doing that, and I really don't like that. So, something like a good example, I think, is going back to app dating, like how people actually communicate on the dating app. I think dating profiles are tough. Like, it's hard to put, if I just think about making a dating profile for myself when I was single, it was hard to figure out what to put on that page. So, I have a lot of empathy for men, women, anyone who their dating profile doesn't really do them justice. Their pictures could be better. The prompt answers could be better. I didn't get too critical about a profile. Um, but it's once you start communicating with them and have a chat on the app that you can start to note things and learn about this person a little more and learn how you feel interacting with them even before you get on a date. I still think don't take it as law, don't take it as Bible, go on the date and learn more if there's enough there. But I just remember many times feeling like, huh, this person is giving me a lot of compliments and they don't know me yet. So that makes me feel kind of weird. But I guess it's nice and I guess it's awkward to be on a dating app. So whatever, I'll just go meet them and then see. And lo and behold, like the pattern would repeat. And after hanging out with them a couple times, I'd be like, they're love bombing me. Like they're still doing this thing where they're like too obsessed with me too fast. And I don't like it. It makes me feel weird. They don't know me at all. Like, and that showed itself very early if I would look back at the like first interaction we ever had. I needed a little more time to decipher it, but it always was like in the beginning, it was there. There's another guy that's I was thinking of a specific guy that I went on some dates with. Another guy, um, our problem in the couple months that we dated was very much like his communication. Like he wasn't good about texting and checking in and making a plan. And I put up with that for a really long time, even though it made me really anxious. Like it triggered something in me. I didn't like that he kind of like would
Yeah,
never really
relatable.
text back or make a plan for the next
Fuck
time.
them.
And I was
Fuck
always
them.
trying to get his attention. Exactly. And finally, we dated for 2 months, and I ignored that completely, even though I was anxious for that entire 2 months. Like, pit of my stomach couldn't eat anything for the entire 2 months. At the end of the day, when we ended things, it was basically him telling me, like, yeah, I don't think I can kind of like be what you want me to be. Like, I'm not a communicator in that way. I'm not good at planning. It seems like you really want that. Like, this isn't going to work. He even had to be the one to tell me that. And I thought about it and thought about our very first interaction in the dating app, and it was all there. Like, he was one of those where it took a really long time to actually get a date on the calendar. And he kind of like breadcrumbed me with his frequency of messages. And it just was all there early on. But I wasn't being honest with myself about how it was making me feel. And it was only in hindsight that I was able to decode that. So I just as I started to date more, I think I got better at being like, this makes me feel bad. I'm going to stop now. Um, and I thought of those couple of examples, I guess, to support that claim.
Yeah. I do think it's really helpful to, like you said, like not over index on their actual profile, because reading into people's profile too much, it's an art, not a science, but reading into it too much assumes that they have perfectly represented themselves in writing, which is
Yeah.
like not a skill most people have.
Yeah.
To be like to be able to self-reflect and put it into words and photos. Like that's an art. So most people probably haven't accurately represented or like sufficiently represented themselves online, even with their best intentions. So I, as far as like actionable advice on the apps and time saving, I would look at their profile, be like, do they need to be a model for me? No. Like, if I knew they had the best personality and we hooked up, would I be thrilled about it? Great. That was my barometer for like how much
Looks.
attraction am I looking for? And
Yeah.
sometimes I'd throw an Uggo in there anyway to just be like, you know what? Let's mix it up. Who knows? Maybe he took horrible photos of himself. Sometimes they do. I think the hottest ones don't even have good photos of themselves because they're not taking
No.
Instagram photos all the time.
Yeah.
And is there something? Did they put effort and intention and a little bit of thought into their profile? Great. If we mutually match, have a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of back and forth, you vet the vibe there a little bit. And no, you still don't know that much about them. But it's at that point, if you get to the point of like having a short conversation, they're being present, they seem responsive enough, they're asking, continuing the conversation enough and putting effort in, get off the app. You do not want to spend weeks or
Mm-mm.
even like a week talking with someone on the app. It is a waste of your time. If you're tired
Hmm.
of people wasting your time, that's a waste of your time because even really like non-malicious people will have one personality in texting and one personality in person. So I think there's like basic vetting you do up top. Am I mildly attractive to them? Did they put some effort in? Are they putting effort into conversation and being timely about it? Great. Then go meet them in person. And it's kind of like meeting them really from
For the
zero for the
first
first
time.
time. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that's another thing this person said in their note before we move on. She said something about like I feel like every time I'm having to like build when I date on the apps, I feel like every time I'm having to build from the ground up. And it is true. Like you don't have context on these people the way that you have context on somebody you went to school with. You have context on somebody that is a friend of a friend. You even have context on somebody you met at a bar because you've already been with them physically in the flesh and you go to the same bars. And so that's
Yeah.
even
You see how they
context.
talk to the bartender. You see how they hold themselves when they walk. Like that's a lot of
Exactly.
context. Yeah.
Exactly. So it is just the truth about app dating. You're starting from ground zero, if not below. You're starting from a
Yeah, you're in the
really
ground.
really from the ground. And that's okay. All you need to do with that is just know that and then be like, okay, so that's why maybe I need to take my time a little bit more. I really, really need to notice how I'm feeling rather than the information I'm collecting because it's not enough right now. Like, that's exactly the reason that the type of advice we're giving around dating on the apps and being intentional about it is very much about like note things, note how you feel because
Yeah.
you are starting from baseline, if not below, and
Yeah.
you just don't have enough to go off of.
I think the reason we talk about the apps a lot, obviously Jess and I both mostly dated on the apps, but
Yeah,
it's like if you can be good at dating on the apps, you can also be good at dating in person because going on a
totally.
first date with someone that you were introduced to from a mutual friend or from work or you met in a bar is kind of like jumping to date number 5 from the apps. Like I feel
Hmm.
like it takes like at least that many dates from the apps to get to a level of basic understanding that you have with a person that you go that like a friend introduces you or something.
Hmm.
And so app dating, yes, you're in this vacuum, and if you can get good at noting how you feel, doing like the detective work of noting people's patterns, but still staying open, but still being an advocate for yourself, then you can do it anywhere. You can do it in person too. And I know how many people are just isolated. Like if you're meeting people in person all the time, then I wouldn't go on the apps either.
Right,
But I wasn't, and most people aren't. So don't
right.
be afraid of it. You want to read what to do number 3?
Yeah, I do. Okay, here is our next one. It says, Hi, Jess and Caroline. I love the pod so much. Y'all are the best. I wanted to ask for the Hot Not Bothered series, what do you think are the best things to ask on a first date to cut through the small talk and start to really understand someone?
Fuck, I don't think I know. I don't think I know. Do you know?
I don't know. That's
So
kind of
much
why I
small
liked this
talk.
question.
There's so much
But
small talk.
this is what I'll say. As much as we don't want dates, and especially first dates, to feel like an interview, to feel like a job interview, they just kind of will always feel a little bit like an interview. And I interview people at work, like I interview people to work at my company all the time. And the thing that I've realized about those interviews is that I care way more about how a person is conducting themselves and communicating and answering a question, understanding how their mind works and what their mindset is and how they approach a problem or how they think
Mm,
about what they do, how they think about their life, way more than like the answer to the question. Such a thing in job
mm-hmm.
interviews. I feel like it's
Yeah.
less about what their answer is and it's more about how did they approach it. And I think that for me, that applies on dates a lot. It's like, I never knew what to ask. It's always a little bit, you're fumbling a little bit. Um, and it is a little bit of small talk, do you have siblings and do you like what you do? But then it becomes like, how do they talk about the people in their life? How do they talk about their job? Do they seem to have a positive outlook on things or a growth mindset or like whatever the things are that you like and are looking for and are attracted to? You have to start piecing that together in how they answer the question, how they talk about themselves. I think it's way more about that than like nailing what the question is and then what's their answer going to be. It's not a Q and
Yeah.
A.
I feel like I also would just, instead of like forcing them to try and open up a certain way, I feel like I would just kick it off. So,
Mhm.
they ask me an interview question. Oh, what do you do for work? You make YouTube videos? Okay, yes, I can answer. I make YouTube videos and I can tell you what it's about and I can tell you, what I did for work before that. But I can also be like, yeah, it's been this huge transition for me. Like, I
Mhm.
always felt like there wasn't like any one career where I really made sense or something that I was good at. And I stumbled into this thing and it's been this like ridiculous like transformation process for me. And I've stumbled into this thing that just like captures all these aspects of my personality. And it's kind of feels like the feeling of like putting on glasses when I've had the rest of my life vision impaired. Like, do you know what I mean? That's the transformative feeling of it. And it's like, if that's someone who can speak and reflect and empathize, they can join you in that.
Mhm.
And I would say even Justin, my fiance, is very, very much like that. But he's also very slow to open up. He was very reserved, and he actually was pretty open on our first date. But for a lot of people, they're just reserved, and they may even be capable of that kind of openness. But you create a culture on your date, and so you create the a culture. You can initiate it of being like, this is a date culture where we say reflective and epic and transformative things that might have gone into a journal, but like a person who thinks this way and connects with people this way, it will be an in for them to connect with you and join you there. So you can
Yeah.
actually kind of kick it off, I feel like. And they should be able to join in if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like you can set the tone and then see if
Yeah.
they can rise to the occasion. Set the tone of I'm going to be a little bit more vulnerable or I'm going to make this
A little
less
more
about an
honest.
interview and more about just like this is how I feel about what I do. How about you? Totally. I also think the point about somebody being reserved and taking some time is a good one. Like my boyfriend Ryan, I
I
realize we
knew
always
it.
refer to
I
them,
knew it. I knew it.
right?
I
And we
know
have
he's
to
very
Oh,
reserved,
you
right?
know he's reserved. Well, I also just was like, I need to say it's my boyfriend because we might have new listeners. We always just say
That's true.
Justin
That's
and
true.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Um, yes, he's very reserved. And on our first date, I talked for like 75% of the date, which if I asked a friend at the time, what do you think of the fact that I talked for 75% of this date? They would have been like, move on. Like, you had to do all the leading. Like, no thanks. Every like kind of
It's not one size fits
basic
all. It's not
basic
one size
dating
fits
advice
all.
is like you need the guy to ask you a bunch of questions. The thing is, he did ask me a bunch of questions. He just wasn't really opening up about himself as much. But what I noticed is that he was listening to me and
Yeah.
asking really curious, good questions. So like even though he was a little more reserved, he was a little quieter. I didn't really get to know more about him, I feel like, until our second date. He was listening and showing that he was like interested in me and giving me the platform to just talk at him for a while. And
Yes.
I
You want me to
really
keep
liked
talking?
that.
I can keep talking. I can
Yeah,
keep
we
talking.
we didn't have the podcast yet. I was like, I need this. I need this.
Yeah.
And then on our second date, he returned the favor and I listened a little more and like it started to balance out over time. He's just that type of person. But what I did feel was like I felt listened to. I felt like this person was curious about me. I felt like he was respectful. I felt like he didn't make me feel stupid for talking about. I've been on dates where I've talked
Mm-hmm.
75% of the time and I felt dumb. I left feeling like ugh, like that was kind of
They
like
hated
I'm
that.
just some dumb hoe who like talked at this guy for 2 hours. What the hell? I
Perfect.
actually didn't feel like that on my date with him, even though
Yeah.
on paper that was the date.
Okay, this
So,
is such a good example of why anybody who tells you a hard and fast rule, some
yeah,
kind of dating commandment about like, this is what they should do, and this is how it should go. It's just not ever true. I really can't think of an exception
yeah,
other than they shouldn't make you, yeah, I think you should never tolerate someone who makes you feel horrible all the time. Maybe that's a hard and fast rule. But like other than that, there's very few people are always going to give you their rules, and it's just not one size fits all. There's not one way. Like if everyone described what their relationship is like with their best friend, some people would be like, best friends should be 50-50 chatty. It should always be equally
mm,
chatty. Other people would be like, I'm the talkative one in mine, and my best friend just listens. Other people would be like, I never talk, and my I love to just listen to my friend. It's like there's not one way to be a best friend. There's not one way to be a wife or a husband or a partner, and there is not one way to have a date. That's why, like, even with all the advice and experience we are happy to share, the biggest thing, the most important thing is that you practice listening to how someone makes you feel. How does it
yeah,
feel to you in that specific moment? Because there isn't a hard and fast rule.
yeah.
Um, yeah, girl.
Girl,
I feel
should
like
we
some people also really do just like they have their favorite questions to ask. Like,
totally?
what's the most scared you've ever been? I kind of hate those. I don't like
I hate
those.
those questions because I'm not good at thinking of things on the spot.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So I
no.
would just sit there being like, and then that would be
I
awkward for
know.
me. So I don't really love those. I mean, I feel like I used to ask, the only thing I can remember I would always ask was not so much like, what do you do, but more, do you like what you do?
Yes.
Because
Such,
it
how
would,
do you feel about it? How's
how
that
do you feel
going
about
for
it?
you?
It would
Yeah,
turn the
so much better.
conversation into like a more vulnerable, like peek into their life and into their what they really value and things like that over just like the headline of I do this at this company. I don't give a shit. How do you feel every day?
And
Are
most people
you,
don't ask them that. It's like, oh, I'm a surgeon. How do you find that? I bet that's a mixed bag. And it
hmm
always fucking is. But most people don't ask them that, and they have feelings they want to tell you,
Of
you know?
course. Yeah. Should we do this last one?
From a listener, we got a DM. They said, dating series input. Ooh, buckle up. I'm dating again for the first time out of a 9-year relationship, 29-year-old woman. Wow, we got a couple of you. The last couple years of my relationship was a caretaker role for him as he was in an accident. Dating now is weird, scary, but also very fun. I feel very connected to my 19 and 20-year-old self, finally feel like myself in general again. We officially split ways 6 months ago, but we're broken up, but we were broken up 6 months prior. I've been dating and I feel like I'm ready for the right person if they are to come along. I did delete dating apps because what the fuck was that? I have maybe found myself in a situationship with someone I really enjoy spending company with, but I couldn't see him as a boyfriend. Maybe someday, but he's about 5 years younger than me, and I'm okay with it just being as it is a situationship. My best friend thinks I'm in denial and am only setting myself up to be hurt, but I'm also knowingly putting myself into this. Me and the guy have great chemistry and conversations, light bullying, feels like the start of a great friendship. Am I wrong to want to continue this knowing Am I wrong to want to continue this while knowing that it's not forever? I have opinions.
Yeah. Do you want to just go? I know your opinion.
You know what I'm going to say? If it's not the thing you want, I'm if you're just like I want a situationship, continue it to
Right.
fucking ever. Continue it till the sun goes down. If you know it's not what you want, then I would say, yes, you are fooling yourself and setting yourself up to hurt to continue it. Because this is what I'll say. And I'm saying this because I did it so many times. I did this most specifically. I learned this lesson with a guy I was dating, dated him for about 9 months. His name was not Steve. He's not Steve, who we talked about early on in the podcast. And with not Steve, he was honestly pretty great in a lot of ways. There was nothing like bad or abusive or harmful or wrong about him, but there was something that was missing. Just as I know there's something missing with this guy, or else you would call him boyfriend material. Just the
Yeah.
fact that he's 5 years younger is that's not the reason that you don't see him as a boyfriend because people date and marry and stay with people who are 5 years younger than them all the
Yeah.
time. So I know that's it. I know there's more to it than the age. There is some reason that it's actually not enough for you. The best case scenario is that you are prolonging the time till you go and actually put the time and energy it requires to meeting someone um, who checks all the boxes. Worst case scenario, and much more likely, I would say, is that you are without your knowing it, you're lowering your own standards. Even though you've told yourself this person isn't forever, by spending all your time with them, it is slowly, that's becoming your norm. So, whatever are the things that they're missing, this is now becoming your norm. And the next person you date only has to be slightly better than that in order
Mm.
for you to think it's a catch. But the truth is, it sounds like the next person should be much better than that. So, like when I was dating somebody who I feel like usually the situationship thing is like they're fun, they're nice, they're not a bad person, we have good banter, this light teasing thing, cool, good sex, cool, cool, cool. But they're like not super invested and like they don't text that promptly, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I'm not that into it. And like they're not like always checking in with how I'm feeling, but like I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because like that's not what this is. But then you forget that that's a way you should be feeling. And the next person you meet when you're trying to date seriously, they also maybe don't check in with how you feel. They also maybe aren't proactive about texting you. They also maybe aren't like, attentive to your messages. And it feels normal to you now because you've exposed yourself to that for so long. It damages you. Don't do it.
Yeah, I agree. I My thing with when we get these types of write-ins, because we get them a lot, is that I don't know the truth of what you actually want right now. So I want to be careful about not projecting the fact that I'm a person who's in a long-term relationship
But
and
she
wants
says she
that
wants a but
and
she says she
wanted
wants a
that.
relationship. She says that.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
I thought she said
I said
she
I'm
was in a
ready.
relationship. Oh, did she say that?
Yeah, she said I'm ready for the right
Oh, I did
person.
not realize that. In that case, then I know that you're doing the wrong thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that part or I didn't absorb that part. So I was thinking, all right, if you genuinely just got out of a relationship and maybe you're at a place where you're not ready for a new one, I do think being by yourself and doing a lot of healing and being intentional with that time and thinking about what you do want when you do want to get back out there and find somebody is a good thing to do. At the same time, I won't judge you or tell you you're wrong for having a situationship just for fun, just to get whatever your sexual needs met. That could be okay if you really only want that. But your message is teeming with evidence that that's not what you want. So I guess you
Yeah.
literally said, I want a relationship or I'm
Yeah,
ready
she
for a
wants the real
relationship.
deal. She said she wants the real deal.
The other thing that she says is like she describes the guy in the situationship. And she says, we have great chemistry and conversations. She's talking about like
Personality.
emotional connection and personality match. And to me, for a situationship, for a hookup buddy, really, to be successful, you got to just get in and get out. I have friends who like they have their roster of, the guys that they hook up with or the guy who they're hooking up with right now. And the reason it works is because they don't have any chemistry
Interest
with
at
them.
all. Yeah.
They don't have any connection with them. They don't stay cuddling and having conversations and bantering and flirting and doing the light bullying and whatever. They literally get in and get out.
Well,
And
that's why I feel like
that
it's
is
so
not what's happening
messy.
here.
That's what's so messy. I feel like situationship is like they're getting this guy's getting
It's a
all the
relationship.
perks. They're getting
Yeah,
all the perks of a relationship with none of the commitment. It's
exactly.
like you found yourself in a fucking situation. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. She said situationship. She didn't say hookup buddy. And situationships really are the danger zone for that reason. I also feel like
Yeah.
if your best friend thinks you're in denial, I don't want to say that somebody else knows you better than you know you. At the same time, if your best friend thinks you're in denial, I feel like she probably does know you well enough to know that you do want something real. And so I kind of
Well,
like
she said
trust
it
her
herself.
gauge on that.
Doesn't
And she
matter.
said it.
I would
She
say it
said it.
doesn't matter what the best friend thinks. The listener herself told us she is looking for the real deal.
Yeah, so
So if you're looking for
you're
the real
wasting your
deal,
energy.
what are you doing? What are you doing? You're damaging yourself. And I think my experience is that I want to share that I also thought that like spending time with the not real deal, like I'm fine with it and it's not damaging to you, but I feel very strongly actually that it is. This is what settling is. Because even if you telling your settling is not just deciding to marry someone who's below your standards. Settling is spending time with people and
Yeah.
letting people into your head and your heart who are below your standards. You can settle with your friendships. If you expose yourself to friendships that are below your standards and have extended intimate like moments with them in a platonic way, that is damaging to you. You are setting yourself up to settle for those kinds of relationships elsewhere too. That is settling. Settling is not just about who you choose to marry. It's about who you choose to spend your time with and give
Oh
your
yeah.
energy to.
Life
Yes.
is now. Life is now. You can be settling at any given time
And you
because
are.
and you are here. Yeah, you're putting energy somewhere. I'm so big on like where I put my energy. And I think it's so important in any relationship. What are you giving your energy to? Are you giving it to the wrong person or the right person? Are you giving it to a situation that's worth it or not? Like you have to gauge this all the time in your life. And I do think that as long as your energy is wrapped up in this person, even if you're like, we only see each other one night a week, or we only, you know, we text a little, but I'm still, this is the big one, like I'm still swiping on the apps, or I'm still open to meeting someone else. Like your energy is wrapped up somewhere else where
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the capacity that you could have. Wouldn't you want to make yourself fully available to the potential of finding the right person
Yeah, it's
because
like a
you've said you
security
want that?
blanket.
Yeah.
Everyone agrees that dating is hard. So you can't tell me that you are putting your full effort into either dating or just like fulfilling yourself on your own and taking time not dating when you have this like easy comfort blanket, like security blanket on call. You can't tell me that you're doing that because I know you're not. Because
Hmm.
who would when you've got someone to cuddle and flirt with you and compliment you? Who would go out on a new first date? Fucking annoying. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's why you have to cut it off.
Agree. It's so crazy because I've read this DM like 3 times and I completely glazed over the I feel like I'm ready for the right person if they are to come along until you were like,
If they are
nobody
to come
says that.
along, you're with somebody else. They're not
They're not
it doesn't
coming
happen
along.
like that. They do not come along like that.
Yeah.
You got to come along to them.
Yeah.
It's
Come
a
along.
mutual coming along. It's a mutual
Come
come along.
along. Come along. I just want to
Come
keep saying that.
along.
Can I like go on a tangent for a second related to
Yeah.
this topic
Yeah.
since that was our last DM for the day? I started watching this new dating reality show on Netflix called
Ooh.
Sneaky Links, which is a weird ass name for a
What?
show.
I've never heard of it.
So a sneaky link is
I'm
like
looking it up.
a newish term. It's not that new, a couple years old. Um, about for like your hookup buddy, basically, like the person that you
Mm.
keep coming back to that you only hook up with, in the dark of night, and you don't really take them seriously as a dating option. And so on this show, there's like 6 people that show up at this island or whatever, and they all are new people. They don't know each other. They think they're coming onto a reality show to like date and meet somebody for real. And then they bring in 6 other people, and each of those
Oh
people
my
is
God.
attached to one of the people currently already in there and is their sneaky link in the real world. So everyone's in a house with new people that they could date, but also with the one person that's like been their hookup buddy for the last 5 years who
OMFG.
they haven't taken seriously or
So
whatever. And the
obviously
whole
the
show,
person who's hooking up with them knows who that is, but they like don't
yes,
let on.
when they get into the house, they're like, "What are you doing here?" Because they thought they
Oh,
were coming on like a dating show, just a normal dating show where they were going to meet all these new people, and then it
that's
turns out
so
that their hookup
fucking
buddy is in
funny.
the house. And the concept is like for them to once and for all decide if there's anything there with this person
Oh my
or
God.
if they need to cut it off and like meet new people who they could also
Yeah.
meet while on the show. And it's really fascinating and it's actually kind of interesting. Like a couple of these pairs are kind of finding deeper connection than they ever thought could exist between them because they had just decided from a very early point, like, we're hookup buddies and that's all we're gonna be. And they never really gave each other a chance to have a deeper conversation or to
Hmm.
like see if they had kind of values in common or things that they want in life in common. And then a lot of the other ones are crumbling and going for other people. And, there was never anything there to begin with. But it's a very interesting concept. I've never seen it done before. And it
Wow.
has got me thinking about these situationship type of people more. Like, I think if you go into, that's why I kept saying, like, if you go into one of these arrangements and it's purely physical and you like don't talk and you don't do anything dating like or romantic or
That's
getting
almost
to know
better.
you like,
I feel like that's
it's kind of
cleaner.
better and it's doable. And
Yeah.
I've seen that work for people. But when it's this weird middle ground, you're giving them all the benefits without getting what you want, really.
Yeah. And
Um,
she listed the thing I wish the listener sent to us was like
mm,
she listed all the things that were cool and fun and enjoyable, personality, chemistry, light bullying. Great. Sounds like a fucking situationship to me. What are the things he's missing? Because it is not just
yeah,
his age. I
I
think
want
you
to
need to be
know.
honest about what are things missing. Listen, people date and marry people 10 and 15 years older or younger than them
Hmm.
all the time. So the age thing is a cop out. I think you need to be honest with yourself. I wish
Yes.
you'd been honest with us because I want to gossip about it. But I think you need to at least be honest with yourself about like, what are you really giving up here? What is the real way you're settling with him? Because if he was actually all the things, him being 5 years younger would
Wouldn't
not be the
matter.
thing. It wouldn't matter. So I think you need to be first up is be very honest with yourself about like, this is the thing I'm giving up that I also know I really want. And I am telling myself I'm going to keep exposing myself to, this person who isn't respectful to my time, or this person who tells me they're dating other people, or this person who just isn't that responsive to my text, or this person who, like, they're not doing anything wrong and it's not bad, but they do make me feel a little not considered.
Hmm.
And be honest about what that's doing to you as you continue to expose yourself to it.
I have a hunch
Uh,
that the 5 years younger thing is code for immaturity. I feel like I've noticed this where, especially
yeah.
women, when talking about dating a younger man, will quote age and them being younger as the issue. And it's like, okay,
Men
that doesn't
older
really
than
mean
me are less
anything
mature too. All men are less mature than all
than
women. That's
women,
a fact.
period.
That's just what science is.
But no, like it really is a cop out. And I think that it's code for I find him to be immature. And to me, I'm like, and then she described the only things we know about him are great chemistry, great conversations, light bullying. Yeah, seems a little immature to me. Like that's all you got. I don't know. You could talk
That's
and have chemistry
personality.
with a lot of people.
Totally. That's chemistry
So,
and personality, which is only actually I would say a very small part of true connection. True connection is like character and values and consistency. Anybody can have banter. I can have chemistry with a fucking bartender. I can have chemistry with the lady who checks me out at CVS. That has nothing to do with how she's going to treat me long term.
yeah.
Like, you can have chemistry. I could have chemistry with a chair,
I've
you
had
know?
chemistry
And
with
I
plenty
do.
of mailmen, you know? Just
Yes.
walking on by. Does I don't know anything else about him though. Doesn't mean
No,
we're soulmates. Yep.
it doesn't. When you'll never know because you didn't give him a chance.
True. My
Okay.
brain just went dead.
It is
Um,
funny that the mailman is such a fucking that's why is that such a fantasy? Isn't that like a trope
the
of a
shorts.
fantasy? The
It's the shorts.
shorts! They don't
Yeah.
even wear shorts anymore.
Do they
Jessica,
not?
the shorts.
The mailmen on my radar,
No, the
they're all in
shorts.
shorts. And by on my radar, I mean,
That's
I
what you
guess
think
in
it
the fantasy.
is.
Is this a
That's so
fantasy that I have?
funny. I think it's because they're bringing me things and they don't ask much of me. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
I love that. You're
you know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah. I
And
do
like they
like
know where
wait
I
for them.
live.
If I ordered something, I'm like waiting for the mailman. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
when's
they're playing it hard to get.
he coming on over?
Just
Yeah.
sitting around thinking about you.
hmm I think
Okay.
we did it. This was
Yep.
great.
We did do it. Y'all,
We
if you
did do it.
enjoyed this episode, we are going to have installments at the end of every month through the summer. There's a different theme for next month, the next episode. So stay tuned. And if you're new here, we also have lots of other dating episodes that were not a part of this summer series. We also have whole episodes on surviving your breakup, getting over breakups, all the dating advice. We have episodes that we've recorded with our boyfriends, fiancés, interviewed men about their dating experience, blah, blah, blah. We've got a lot of dating stuff. And then we also just do all chitty chatty fun shit. So we're happy to have you. And we're going to give you more of the dating dirties next month.
Yeah. Can't wait. Kisses.